Tootie, can I get you to, you need to charge this? Can you plug that into something else? What if you go take this and put it on the block? Because I can't have this going right here. Ba-da-da. Yeah. You need to take a block, sis. Hold on, beautiful people. You can take this. Take this thing off the back. Take this. Hold on, y'all. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. Josh. Go ahead, I don't care. Look, find me a block with this C. Find me a C block, please. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. We had to change our location today. I had to come to another one. We got company, so I don't want to disturb them. So I have relocated to another room for the morning. Anita, shalom, shalom. Tabitha, Dawn, blessings. Okay, I'm trying to put my stuff together here. Key, hey girl, hey, Hannah. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. And everybody else here already hanging out in the background. I need a block. Where's the block for this situation? Where's this block? Find that for me. 3 screens. Boy, go. Get out here. Go.
You see that up there?
Yeah, I mean, if I look at it, I'm like looking up, so I gotta look down here. 4. Yeah, I need a C block. A C block.
What's a C block?
To plug this in. A block with a C port.
They make those?
Yeah. Yes, babe.
Jamal, you got a block with a C on it?
Can't you use this?
I get the body out of a new place.
I do not.
Get out of here. We're trying to pull this together this morning,
You don't need a USB?
It's 4 screens now.
Yeah, but the little small port. You got one with the regular USB and then the little small C port.
No, but I don't have that type of stuff.
I got one in here somewhere because I took one from them.
Look in your nightstand.
I mean,
it's not in your nightstand?
No, I don't have those in there. I don't have those in there.
It's right there. Wow.
Go buy you some.
Let me see what you working on.
Yeah, Josh got it. This right here. See this? Look at this. See this one? That fits in there.
Josh, you got that's
all right.
The only charger you got now.
I like this. I mean, or Bella,
that's for that. Oh yeah. No, babe, we ain't gonna have that. It's
still the same type of port. I'm sorry. We putting this first thing this morning. I'm sorry. I'm gonna just plug it back here. Bella, you just gonna have to wait for this, okay? It's fun. Yeah, just gonna have to wait. All right, everybody. Roll out. All right, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. It is November the 27th, 2022. Today it is day 273 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1293. Today we're picking back up in Oahspe with, what's the book called? Second Book of the Lords on page 54. Yep. Hold on. I'm sorry. Look at my pages. Nope, I'm sorry. No. Synopsis of 16 cycles on page 54. And then we'll pick up where we left off at in the Field Guide to the Spirit World on page 134.
I was just looking at something.
Oh, okay. No, you look like you want to ask a question. Then that greetings, Jamia. Hey, girl. Hey, Elijah. Shalom, Prince. Shalom, Kendra. Shalom, sis. Set apart living. Hey, girl. Hey. Pam, every time I read your email, say email me, burst out laughing. I know, right? And a lot of people did, so I sent it to a lot of people. Enjoy it, y'all. Enjoy it for the time being until we get to read it out loud. Derry CM, shalom, shalom. Faith is ministry. Good morning. Top of the day to everybody. All right, y'all. Let me see. Father, we thank you for instruction during dream time directly from you. All right, y'all. What? You keep looking over here like you want to say something. My backsplash, I know. Just don't mind the background yet. We ain't done decorating this place. But did you see it? It don't look bad. It just look like the walls. It's blank. Because I'm not centered in the middle of the room.
It's cool, babe. I was just
They don't nobody care about that. Hold on. I'm gonna just look more at the ceiling. Hold on, you see the screens. All right. All right, beautiful people. Go to page 54 in Oahspe. Can you kill that fan though? Thank you. Page 54, the synopsis of 16 cycles. And the subtitle under it is being 48,000 years, and also including the sub-cycle of 1,000 years of darkness, covering a period from the creation of man down to the submersion of the continent of Pan, called by the ancients the flood or deluge, which was 24,000 years BK, or BK is before Cosmon, selected from the records and the libraries of heaven. So this is where we're about to start finding out. Which one is it? All these. That wasn't one of my alarms. That's the boys' watches. They sitting on my nightstand. So here where we're gonna learn about Pan and how they is it this would they sink it? Pan. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. All right, y'all.
Oh.
Yes. What? Like I'm live. Just because I'm in a new place, same rules still apply.
Oh yeah, I know. That means I still get to bother the mess out of all y'all, but on full screens this time, so I get more wide range of view.
Bye, Jeremiah. All right, y'all. Chapter 1. First, the earth plieth in a circle around the sun, which circuit is divided into 4 arcs called spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Second, the sun with his family plieth in a large circuit, which is divided into 1,600 arcs, the distance of which for each arc is about 3,000 years or one cycle. Okay, so also I missed a reference. Up in the subtitle, where it says being 48,000 years and also including the sub-cycle of 1,000 years of darkness. After darkness is reference number 1, and down at the bottom it says, and also including the sub-cycle of 1,000 years of darkness, and all of that is in square brackets. Go down to verse 2. Second, the sun with his family plieth in a large circuit, which is divided into 1,600 arcs. And after 1,600, after the number 6, well, it's spelled out 6, but 6 is reference number 2, and 2 at the bottom has 5. And then at the end of this verse, verse 2, which is divided into 1,600 arcs, the distance of which for each arc is about 3,000 years or one cycle. After cycle is reference letter A. And A, remember the letter references are found at the end of the current book we're reading, which can be found on page 58. And A says, it appears that the 1891 edition is more correct in this case. Refer to Book of Sappha, chapter Osiris, verse 58. Here the student will see that both the 1882 and the 1891 editions allow 1,600 danhas per circuit, giving an average of 3,000 years per danha. One can conclude that one circuit would take about 4,800,000 years. The number expressed in the 1891 edition is fairly close to the editorial translation of verse 58, which stated in that case that one circuit would take 4,700,000 years. See plate, current position of the solar system in this cosmon season at the end of the glossary. Let me show y'all that. Well, I can just flip to the end of the glossary instead of looking at the page number because I know what the glossary is at. And that's not the end of that footnote. So, okay, current position. And I'm going to take a picture of this. I took a picture of it before, but it's on page 788. So this current position, current position of the solar system in this cosmon season. Okay, so this is for Facebook. It's like the whole page. So you can see the diagram, but then like you're going to be able to read it unless you have one. Because in order to see the whole page, I got to come back a little bit. All right. YouTube, that's for you. My walls the same colors as yours. Yay, twin. Oh, speaking of twin, this has nothing to do with the price of tea in China. But I just thought about it. Listen. Yeah, completely off topic. When I said twin, she said,
I don't have an answer for that.
Why? She always so nosy in every room. Nah, she ain't in every room. But listen, yesterday when I was reading in some of the footnotes of the Holy Megillah, it has a section in there where it talks about JC, right? And it got into the explanation on why some people say that JC had a twin. Y'all ever heard that? I'd say, hey girl, hey. Y'all ever heard that? I'm gonna wait for y'all to answer. Y'all ever heard that Jesus had a twin? I thought it was complete foolishness because I was like, we don't even know if Jesus existed at that time. I know there was a real person, but have y'all ever heard that Jesus had a twin? I figured out where that came from. Anybody ever heard that? No. Yeah, okay, Kendrick. Okay, I ain't the only one. You heard it. But anyway, it comes from if you actually have well, you're not going to see it on the electronic version that I shared, but if you actually have the printed, and I'm not sure if it's in a paperback, it should be, but in the reference section, yeah, read it in the Megillah, Auntie, heard he had a wife. Yep, all that stuff is in there. It says that, okay, so a few people, Fritz heard it too. Back there, it explains that it was referring to Thomas, right? But not blood-born. But because, matter of fact, hold on, let me read you that love. It's from the footnotes. Let me share it with you real quick. I know it has nothing to do with the price of tea in China or with the reading, but just in case, and you don't have it, and you got like an electronic copy. What was it? Hold on, because I marked the page. It was referring to it, just to kind of sum it up, it was referring to not the actual blood-born being a twin, But the spiritual grade, well, not even grade, because he wasn't quite there, but they had like the same spirit, so to speak. Hold on. Spiritually, they was looking at it spiritually, but I like the way it explained it. I should have stuck. Wait, did I? Hold on. I did. I'm sorry. There you go. Okay. It's actually on page 116 if you have it. So, but like I said, I'm not sure if these footnotes are in there because I don't remember seeing. I could be wrong. Listen, um, it's like footnote 41 in the Nazarene book of Genesis, right? Chapter 15. And it says the Hebrew word here translated as marvel is tamah. 3 verses later, we are introduced to the Hebrew word teom, which means twin. Both of these words also appear on the first page of the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas. Early church writings describe Thomas as the twin of Yeshua or Jesus. In the text at hand, we realize that this twinship is a level of spiritual attainment within the Nazarene mystery school, not a genetic physical likeness. Other verses in this selection of the Megillah parallel the opening verses of the Gospel of Thomas. The Hebrew word teom means twin. As described in a previous footnote, this type of twinship is a level of spiritual attainment, not a physical likeness. Okay, yeah, and the next footnote is going on to something else. So I thought that was really, really interesting because I had heard that before I had actually seen that here. Like I didn't even know that was there till yesterday. But I heard this and I was like, y'all just keep adding blasphemy on top of blasphemy. But now I get it. So I'm like, oh, okay. But the people that were explaining it, they were looking at it from the point of view like a physical, biological, blood-born twin when it had nothing to do with that. Selah Shalom. Yeah, so you like it so far? It is. It's a really great read. Okay, so let's go back to this. We looked at the chart. Let's go back to this footnote on page 58 and the synopsis of 16 cycles. All right, so let me just read it over. It appears that the 1891 edition is more correct in this case. Referred to Book of Safar, chapter Osiris, verse 58. Here the student will see that both the 1882 and the 1891 editions allow 1,600 danhas per circuit, giving an average of 3,000 years per danha. One can conclude that one circuit would take about 4,800,000 years. The number expressed in the 1891 edition is fairly close to the editorial translation in verse 58, which stated in that case that one circuit would take 4,700,000 years. See plate current position of the solar system in this cosmon season at the end of the glossary. All numbers in that plate are approximations. When dealing with numbers of such magnitude, even a difference of thousands of years is a mere detail. Okay, so go back to chapter 1 on page 54. And we'll pick back up at verse 3. That reference was from cycle, the last word in verse 2. During a cycle, the earth and her heavens fall in the Etherian regions of hundreds of Etherian worlds, where dwell Jehovah's high raised angels, whose chiefs have to do with the management of worlds. During the time of a cycle, the earth is therefore under the control and management of such of Jehovah's angels for the resurrection of man of the earth. At the time of the creation of man, the earth was traveling in the ark of Wan, where dwell thousands of Orion chiefs with thousands of millions of high raised angels. The holy council of Orion chiefs, through the wisdom and voice of Jehovah, appointed one of their number, Sathantes, to take charge of the earth and to people it with immortal beings during its travel in Wan. The rank and title of Sathantes, thus raised up by Jehovah, creator of worlds, was first God of the earth and her heavens. And Sathantes came with millions of angels who had been raised up from other worlds previously, and he accomplished his work and was known as God. Sathantes was then the first God of the earth and her heavens, and his place was within the ark of Wan. And during his cycle of 3,000 years, he raised up from the earth 4,400 million brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah. And after 400 million, it's the reference number 3 after million. And at the bottom, 3 says 1,500 million. All right, verse 10. After after Sathantes came Ashong, sub-chief in the realms of Hayu We, in the Hayan ark of Vehitavi. And during the cycle of Anachron, also 3,000 years, Ashong raised up from the earth a harvest of 7,200 million brides and bridegrooms. And after 200 million is reference number 4. Now 4 at the bottom says 2,200,000,000. Verse 11. The third cycle was under the dominion of Huli, surveyor of Kakayan Sta, in the ark of Gemel, and his harvest was 3,700 million. And after million, it's reference number 5. 5 at the bottom says 3,700,000,000. All subsequent similar differences are not footnoted. See editor's note number 3. And remember, the editor's notes are at the beginning of Oahspe, and it goes through all the different editorial notes, and then it lists it one time throughout here, and after that they don't list it anymore. They just continue with the change. Drive safe, Elijah. All right. Verse 12. The fourth cycle was under Spi Aban, chieftainess of Solgowiran, and the ark of Yan, and her harvest was 4,800 million. The fifth cycle was under Pathodis, road maker, and Chittidia, in the ark of Yehomatak, and his harvest was 6,400 million. The sixth cycle was under Gomagak, god of Eseg, in the ark of Somwathga, and his harvest was 7,900 million. The seventh cycle was under Gopins, god of Cain, in the ark of Shrivat, and his harvest was 9,300 million. The eighth cycle was under Hysis, goddess of roots, in the ark of Ho Hamagolak, and her harvest was 9,400 million. I know I'm screwing up some of these names, not on purpose. Sound them out the best I can. Forgive me if y'all know the proper pronunciation of it. Some of them I don't quite get it yet. Verse 18. The 10th cycle was under Mesiletivi, chieftainess of the arks of Laws Gobak, and the ark of Nu, and her harvest was 10,800 million. And now the earth was full of people. All the continents and islands of the earth were inhabited by man, nor was there left any wilderness wherein man did not dwell. But the generation of man excuse me, but the generation of man had fallen from 33 years down to 12 years, and man and woman were all maturity at 7 years old, and not many lived above 30 years, but they were prolific, many of the mothers bringing forth 2 sons and daughters, and from 2 to 4 at birth. And man dwelt in peace, and the earth was tilled and brought forth abundantly of everything that was good for man to eat and to clothe himself. And there were in those days great cities of hundreds and thousands of inhabitants, thousands and thousands of such cities, and in all the 5 great hold on, let me read the whole sentence again. And there were in those days great cities of hundreds of thousands of inhabitants, thousands and thousands of such cities, and in all the 5 great divisions of the earth. And man built ships and sailed over the ocean in all directions around about the whole world. By the angels of the Lord was he taught and guided in all things. And man had books, both written and printed, And the young were taught in schools a knowledge of the sun and moon and stars, and of all things that are upon the earth and in the waters thereof. This was therefore called the first period of civilization on the earth. So the angels were teaching directly. Verse 22. Now, for the most part, all the people had become ehims, small, white, and yellow. Nevertheless, there were ground people with long arms who were large, but they dwelt by themselves, and their food was of all manner of flesh and fish and creeping things. The ground people were brown and black, and they lived to be 200 and even 400 years old. And after 400 years old is reference letter B. Hop over to page 58. B says, see end note A, first book of the first lords. This is a fact that cannot be overemphasized. Okay, so let's go back there. First book of the first lords. First book of the first lords. Oh, okay. On page 41 at the bottom, Uncle JB, shalom, shalom. Listen, it says, this factual description is not a reference to the current races of man. Both Ehin and Drooks are extinct. All races, whether Asian, European, African, Native American, etc., are descended from Ehuans and Gans. The first race of Ehuans were copper colored, but modern descendants of Ehuans and Gans are expressed in all the complexions of humanity. The reference to the Drook race should not be confused with the general use of the term, in which the word Drook refers to any person who is very low in spiritual grade, regardless of race. There are also references indicating that some branches of the Ehins were of varied complexion. For example, the Lord's fifth book, chapter 3, verse 4, notes that the Ehins of Ham or Ham varied in complexion. See lineage of humanity plate at the end of the glossary. And we saw that the other day when we read that, right? Okay, what I'll repost it. Timeline, humanity chart. Okay, just in case you don't have this, this is also online as well. Oahspe. Okay, go back to page 55, verse 23. Jehovah said, in the early days, I raised up Ehuans and gave them certain commandments, among which was not to cohabit with the Drooks, lest they go down in darkness. But they obeyed not my words, and lo and behold, they are lost from the face of the earth. Because the Ehins have become a spiritual people and have prospered in peace and spirit, behold, they have degenerated in the corporal body. They yield abundant harvest for my Ethereal realms, but they are like untimely births. Now will I bring to earth, excuse me. Now will I bring to earth into now will I bring the earth into Aegean fields and forests for a long season, for I shall again reproduce the Ehuans, and the time of a generation shall be 33 years. Hold on, I need a sip of water, y'all. I got it right here. Okay. Verse 25, I read again. Now will I bring the earth into Aegean fields and forests for a long season, for I shall again reproduce the Ehuans, and the time of a generation shall be 33 years. For my harvest shall be of fruit that is mature and full of ripeness. And Jehovah brought forth the earth into new regions, and Jehovah brought the earth into new regions in the Ethereal worlds and covered it over with Aji, east and west and north and south. And it came to pass that many of the Ehings lost the generative desire, and so brought not forth many heirs. But the brown people burnt with desires, and they laid hold of the Ehing women when they went into the fields and forced them, and thus brought forth again the Ehun race, the copper colored, strong and bright and quick. You know what? I read something yesterday. And it came to pass that many of the Ehings lost the generative desire, and so brought not forth many heirs, but the brown people burnt with desires, and they laid hold of the Ehim women when they went into the fields and forced them, and thus brought forth again the Ehun race, the copper colored, strong and bright and quick. This kind of lines up with something I was reading yesterday from the Megillah, where it was talking about taking women by force and a type of offspring that would come from them when you do that. Like I blocked that whole portion off, and I put this is rape, but this is rape here as well, right? If you're curious about that, you can go. That is on Metal Body. I didn't put a thing there, a tab, but it's on page 54. It's in chapter 9 of the Nazarene book of Genesis. Chapter 9. Yep. That's exactly where it is. I'm going to put a page number. I'm debating. I'm debating whether I want to read that little snippet. Listen, this is kind of similar. And it came to pass that many of the Ehines lost the generative desire, and so brought not forth many heirs. But the brown people burnt with desire, and they laid hold of the Ehine women when they went into the fields and forced them, and thus they brought forth again the Ehun race, the copper colored, strong and bright and quick. And listen to this. Verse 255 in chapter 9 of the Nazarene book of Genesis. Then Lucifer whispered in the ear of Adam how he was to take Eve and make her pregnant. Hold her down and take her. You are stronger than her and need not ask permission. If you force her rather than ask her, the baby you make will be stronger. So it was that Adam took Eve by the hair and pulled her to him. Then he held her down and entered her, asking not for permission and listening not to her words. And this was very different from when Adam and Eve had made love in the center of the garden, and the soul that was attracted was very different from that of Abdiel, or Abdiel we know as Abel, right? Yea, the soul that incarnated in the womb of Eve was very dark indeed. So that's kind of interesting. That's it's kind of similar. It stands out to me. But we know even this book right here, to whereas Oahspe teaches you that Cain and Abel is a group of people, right? Abel is like the righteous group of people, and Cain is those who are like considered droops. They have a darker nature. It's still kind of telling the same story. They just kind of put everybody into one person, like it does over in the Bible. But what's interesting is that this brings out the point that there are multiple gods, right? Which lines up with Oahspe. So it's like different pieces that you can connect together. It's really, really interesting. So if you got them both, kind of like, I don't know if you can read them simultaneously. You should probably just read all the way through Oahspe, get a good understanding, then read through this, get a good understanding. Then you can kind of compare and contrast the stories and the different things. Right. It wasn't allowed by creator, Tabitha. Don't get me wrong what I was reading here. Right. Rape is not allowed by creator. Absolutely not. But this is telling you what was happening and who they were actually hearing, where they thought they were hearing the voice of true God. Right. Matter of fact, this talks about true God in here. I was like, oh, snap. But when they were listening to, and it tells you that Lucifer, and it's using the name Lucifer and Satan, right? Lucifer was he was pretending like he was true God. Right. So it goes through here and it kind of lines up with some of the stuff like we read in like Genesis and even some things that it brings. It's still to me, Oahspe still, I ain't gonna say it trumps everything, but it still seems to me, even reading through what I've read in here, Oahspe is still kind of the the higher light that brings a deeper explanation into what's even happening here and in the Bible, right? So because this talks about all the different how all the different religions and stuff got started, where they originated from, and all of this. This is just giving more detail into the different things. This even talks about how you know how in Israel women aren't allowed, so to speak, in the priesthood. This gives a whole lot of detail over here in the Megillah on how on why that is so, and on why that is so, but it also brings out that according to the true priesthood are those who live according to the laws of life, who they call Essenes, the Nazarites, Nazarenes, whatever term you like best, that women are just as equal as men, right? And it's the priesthood of priests and priestess, right? And so this is something that I found really interesting because I've taken a Nazarite vow, and I was kind of sharing with Jamil the other day about it as I was explaining it to her. And as I began to revisit the vow, I'm like, clearly I can tell in Numbers chapter 6 that this vow has been mixed with error, right? Because it tells you that at the end of your vow, you take a turtle dove and then you burn your hair, all this stuff, and you slaughter this lamb, which is against the laws of life of the Creator, right? There are some true things in there. Not to consume flesh, touch dead bodies, all that stuff. Those are true things. But then you mix it with the blood sacrifices and stuff, and you pretty much just negate all this that you did over here, right? So I'm just like, there's a thorough mixing in this Nazarite vow, right? So but if you want to know about that, you can go to the Nazarene book of Genesis chapter 19, where it talks about the priesthood, right? which we hear about a lot in Israel, right? That is actually called that is Satan, call it Satan's priesthood. Um where did I hold on? No women. I put little tabs in here for quick reference. Yes, son.
I'm being serious about the editing.
Okay. All right, Jamal, we'll talk about it. Yeah, chapter 19. But this feel rebellious.
I got a question. Should family members get discounts?
Boy, what is you talking about? Tabitha said, "Good morning, brother Jeremiah."
Oh, what's good, gang?
Listen, you talking about editing videos and stuff.
I mean, that's good money right there.
In here, okay, so this brought a lot of clarity to some of the Hebrew camp videos and how they remember how I shared, and I'm sure all of y'all seen it, how some of the guys in the different camps, I'm not going to name them, the alphabet camps or whatever, but they have some videos up. Yes, babe. Yes, they have some videos up where the men who call themselves priests, that is reading out the Bible, Torah scrolls, or whatever it is they reading from, preaching to you, talking about how women are pretty much there for their gratification. Kitchen and the bedroom, Florida, kitchen and the bedroom, that's where you belong, right? And some, not all of them, I will say not all of them, because there is a good bunch of them that really do honor and respect women. But there is some out there that's just like, women are nothing, you treat them as thou wilt, right? And there was even one I was completely appalled where he told his son, like he talked to his wife in front of his son like she wasn't nothing, calling her all kinds of names, bees and hoes. And I'm like, this has got to be a spoof video. Like, let me see this to the end. Dude was serious. And he told his son, he said, "And son, and when you have a wife, if this bee don't do this, then I'm just like, I was flabbergasted. I was absolutely floored. But this explains that over here in the Megillah. I'm like, oh snap. Like a lot of them live that to the T, and they shut the women up. Matter of fact, it tells you there are no women can be allowed in the priesthood. Let me see. Uh, and when the and with the rebellion of Eve, Lucifer had banned the women of this world from his priesthood, saying, "Their intuition is an apple from the wrong tree, and should they feed that apple to men, even as Eve poisoned Adam, none of this world would obey my voice. Wherefore, the women of this world must be under the dominion of men." Now, when it talks about Eve was disobedient or she was in rebellion, she was not in rebellion to the creator. She was in rebellion against what this story says Lucifer was telling them to do, which was slaughter animals. And even though she did at the behest of Adam, well, this is our Lord, because remember, they had tricked, they thought this was true God speaking to him. He was masquerading as Yahweh in the garden. I know y'all heard, some of y'all probably heard them stories where the God in Genesis is actually the devil. Well, this brings light to that. A lot of people, it clears that up a lot. So they may not have read this, but they've read other scrolls that has this story in there. And so Eve eventually said, well, this feels wrong. We shouldn't be slaughtering animals. But Satan was trying to trick them out of the garden. This is a story as it's told here, right? But there's a bigger spiritual side that goes to all of this. But the story goes that he was trying to get them out of the garden, because remember, we were created light, right? Light bodies. And he said, and it was Satan, it was Satan, Lucifer was the one who was walking through the cool of the day in the garden, right? But he was given Adam and Eve instructions in order. He said, you want to make your bodies like metal, strong like mine, then you got to slaughter animals, right? And then you have to eat their flesh. And that's how all of that began. I'm just kind of summing it up a little bit. But and he said, and that little voice that you hear on the inside of you is going to tell you not to do it. Don't listen to that voice. That's the voice of the enemy, which was truly the voice of Creator speaking to them and kindly and gently telling them, don't do that. Don't harm the creatures. Even the creatures were crying out, but the more they did it, the less they heard the voice. But Eve, after it was like a couple times, she said she couldn't do it. And after the point where Satan, they had already had Abel. But at this point, Satan had told him he wanted to teach them how to make a baby that'll be strong like them, right? But first, their bodies are not dense enough, right? You got to be able to come outside the garden to be able to do this and wither the storm and all this kind of crazy. So I'm like, what the crap? So let me see this through to the end. But now I'm understanding a whole lot of the stuff that I perceived as garbage, hearing from a lot of different groups of people. I'm like, yo, and I'm almost certain they haven't read this, but this and its references gives the different references where a lot of these stories can be found in other scrolls in different places on the earth. So these people must have gotten a hold to those, and that's where the stories start floating around, right? So this brings it all together. The only need for a priesthood is for animal sacrifice. I agree with that. Take the hey girl, hey, create a gang, grand rising. Mom, shalom. Yeah, similar to the story. It is similar. If y'all excuse me, if y'all read that is similar to that story. When Cain was being taught to form and fashion weapons and stuff, right? But that also has it in here. Spearheads. Matter of fact, metal. I put metal body. Because somebody asked a question yesterday when it says, I will wed your bodies of flesh with metal. And somebody made the comment and said, what do they mean by that? Now, I'm also of the mindset that this is maybe talking about future or whatever. I could be wrong. But also, when I first read this, I started thinking about like some of the things that's happening now. About the nanotechnology being merged with the flesh, right? I'm like, okay, that's like metals merged or wed with flesh, so I'm not discounting that, but I made a note of that, but that can be found in chapter 9 as well. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They asked a question with the little screenshot that I shared, and it said, it's in chapter 8, the last few verses, and it said, from verse 42 all the way to 49, it says, "Behold, the three bodies of Satan are three dispensations. First is the body of the fallen flesh of satanic seed. Second is the body of metals and second is the body of metals mated with flesh. Third is the body of enslaved light. And the first body of Satan prepares mankind to accept the second body, and the second body of Satan prepares mankind to accept the third body. And the dispensation of each body is of long duration, and Satan tends to his garden." Right? So I told him, I said, this is actually answered almost in full in the very next chapter of Adam and Eve, and it start explaining what the metals with flesh is and how all of this started, right? And it's just talking about how it really gives a good breakdown about how people can be infiltrated with other spirits other than theirs, right? Or open yourself up to demonic possession, right? And it all comes from slaughtering and eating meat, right? And it really brings Israel's priesthood to the forefront. If you hadn't thought about them at any other time, some is wrong with the sacrifices. You should not be slaughtering humans nor animals. Definitely not putting them in your bellies. And this calls it here in the Megillah, it calls that when you slaughter animals, it calls it murdering animal spirits. To you're stealing their bodies from their spirits, right? And it gets, I thought it's really good, y'all. It's a lot of stuff that it talks about here in Oahspe. It shows you like a little bit, I ain't gonna say deeper detail, but it gives it to you in the Adam and Eve type story and what was happening. And you can see the principles flowing all the way throughout, right? Okay, hold on. Tabitha, yes. Do you notice all these books gave the same Adam and Eve story? Oahspe brings a different spin on the whole matter, right? It's like a higher light. It's literally like the Bible and stuff. It's like the nursery rhyme stories for everybody with the principles and stuff of what was happening scattered all the way through. Oahspe shines light on all of those stories, give you not just facts and statistics and stuff. It brings a lot of clarity to different stories that have been separated and merged with other stories. It kind of fills in what happened between these two verses in Genesis, like this whole story and before it even started. And Genesis actually begins from what we see, it starts way after the creation of the earth and the first God. And so the first God in the book of Genesis is a Lord. It's not even God's status, the person who's speaking. And this gives a little bit more light about that account as well. It is really good. Y'all got to have all of them. Okay, who wanted a copy? There is two priesthoods and always having. It absolutely is, right? And Israel has been fooled for the most part. In search of Yah Shalom, what story is this? Can I get the PDF? Yes. Email me. Email me. I got you. Email me. Because right now, you can't get it from anywhere, right? Email me. My email, let me just get it to you right now again. Hold on. Yeah. Jamil. Hold on. Uh-oh. Hold on. I got it. Look, it's all in the community section, but just in case y'all can't find it, hold on. Let me get it to you right here. Okay. I'll post it on both places. And they do it. Oh. Okay. There it is on Facebook. That's the email. Hold on, y'all. Still trying to work this. My mouse all over the place. All over the place. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay. Email me. After we get done, I'll send it to you. But I'm trying to give y'all page points and reference numbers so you can kind of jump to some stuff. But read it from the beginning, right? Just don't jump to conclusions. Just like what we did when we started reading Oahspe, some stuff I was like, oh, what? Wait, I don't know. But we just gonna keep reading it to the end, and it begins to unfold what it's saying, right? Because when I first started, like I said, I had just heard about it recently, but it was so interesting. I thought it needed to be up here to be read out loud. But just hold all your biases and everything until you finish going through it. Like I'm still going through this one as well. So, all right. Someone said, email me. I got that work. Yeah, I got that work for y'all. Look, especially when it comes to the scriptures, I got all kind of references and stuff. Listen, I told y'all everything got to go on the table. Now there is something in here that just kind of like threw my antennas up. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but let me just hold my not necessarily hold my biases on this particular thing. But I need to finish seeing everything else. I need to link all these particular scriptures up. So it's about, I'm gonna just tell you what it is. Hold on. It's about two women that asked if they could get married. I'm like, and they was like, well, we ain't never dealt with this kind before. We need to pray about this and ask and see. And it was pretty much saying just leave them alone, let them be. Because everybody can learn something from somebody. That's just kind of, I didn't stick a tab in here, I just kind of highlighted it. And I boxed it. I'm like, this is wrong. So I just left it there for the time being. But I forget what page that was. But anyway, so I wanted to show y'all that there is so go back here to the priesthood where it's talking about the women, none allowed, and it kind of all goes with this. We're over here in verse 27 in synopsis of the 16 cycles. It reminded me of what I read over here yesterday about the women being raped. And this is what it is. It don't use the word rape here. It just said, and it came to pass that many of the Ehims lost their generative desire, and so brought not forth many heirs. But the brown people burnt with desires, and they laid hold on the Ehim women when they went into the fields and forced them. Anytime you force anybody to have any type of sexual relation with you, that's considered rape, right? So that's what this is right here. And forced them, and thus brought forth again the Ehun race, the copper colored, strong and bright and quick. Right. And so, like I said, over here, it gives you a little bit more detail. Not saying that these are exactly the same instances in time, because they very well could be different, just kind of following some of that same shenanigan type behavior where they were doing it in other places. But it talks about how that the offspring of the ones when this happened, and what the offspring would be when you took them in this type of way, which it makes sense to me when I understand the job of the Lewis, the master of generations, right? You are to watch, they're like the matchmakers, right? Watch what's happening during the lives of the husbands and the wives, what's going on while the child is in the womb, because all of that affects what this child will be when they're born and what they'll be in the future, right? So if Bella, sis, no, not while I'm live in here. So if all kind of craziness happening, the child gonna be kind of jumbled up, so to speak, right? And the Lewis tracks this for 6 generations, and according to this, a generation is 33 years, right? So I mean, they track it for more than 6 generations, but in order to where it says produce a prophet, or one who can clearly hear the voice of the creator, it takes 6 generations. And the Lewis, those particular guardian angels, so to speak, but higher raised than a personal guardian angels, they're the ones in charge of this and overseeing this, right? So it's really interesting. You're welcome. All right, so yeah, so that about the Hebrew camps, that definitely comes from this here. And like I was saying, Eve wasn't in rebellion to true God, true creator. She was actually in rebellion to the false God. And at this time, he was calling himself Yahweh in the garden. she was rebelling against that, and she was telling Adam, don't do that. She said it feels wrong, and Adam was even saying, yeah, I know it feels wrong, but the Lord our God said we must obey him, otherwise he's gonna be mad with us and we're gonna catch his wrath. Right? Sound like the same God in Genesis, right? The wrathful, vengeful God. Yeah, this was. I completely understand now why some people say Yahweh is Satan, but I get what they're saying, right? It was false God in Genesis. So she was rebelling against that. And when he actually went through with raping her, the seed that came through Eve at the time of rape was actually Cain. That's the child that was produced from when Adam did that to her. Remember, they had already had Abel, and that came from the true love before they had started going sideways, listening to the words of this false God, right? So when he forced her, he took her, that actually cut him off from her, and she went away from him, right? Because she didn't want to do it, but she got pregnant and it produced Cain, those of a darker nature. And it goes into explain all of that and what Cain was and how he was able to hear clearly the voice of the false God. And they just kind of kept going on and began to create all type of weapons of war and spearheads and stuff, which we found out Cain here in Oahspe is what? Cain represents, I'm sorry, the mark of Cain is what? It's war. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So if you ain't got it, email me. I got that work for you. And we can go through this together. I can't read it all page by page and stuff like that. But if y'all are reading it and we're reading it, as we make the connections, we can just, and we can talk about it, right? So I'm just saying, put it all on the table. Email me for that work. All right, let's go back. Page 55. Dang, we at 55 minutes and I ain't even got through this whole chapter. Okay, page 55 in Oahspe, verse 27. And it came to pass that many of the Ehines lost the generative desire, and so brought not forth many heirs. But the brown people burnt with desires, and they laid hold of the Ehine women when they went into the fields and forced them, and thus brought forth again the Ehun race, the copper colored, strong and bright and quick. Accordingly, the 11th cycle, Bella, sis, turn it down, I'm gonna kick you out. Turn it down. Thank you. Accordingly, the 11th cycle, which was under Gobath, god of Tyron Gathaga, in the ark of Suli, brought forth a harvest of 6,700 million. The 12th cycle was under Phaeus, goddess of Luga, in the ark of Sion, and her harvest was 2,600 million. The 13th cycle was under Zeneth, Zena, Xenothes, keeper of the crest, and the ark of Oli Ganaya, and his harvest was 1,200 million. The 14th cycle was under Thoth Sentaga, road maker in Hapanogos, and the ark of Manichu, and his harvest was only 600 million. The 15th cycle was under Nemas, god of Thasgo Thachmachus, in the ark of Sega, and his harvest was only 40 million. The 16th cycle was under Neph, god of Soganes, and the ark of Ark Brook, but he failed to bring forth any harvest. Okay, and so we're gonna pause right here because we're already at an hour, and I was adding in stuff from over here. So we're gonna pause right here, and then we're gonna hop over to the field guide to the spirit world. Okay. All right. Another text says too that Abel gave a sacrifice from the fruit of the ground, not Cain. Absolutely right. They really do. Matter of fact, I think also in the book of Jasher, in the book of Jubilees, those stories conflict as well, right? So we're just trying to get it all out. The book of Adam and Eve but Cain was the eldest, right? I read that too. Listen, you know how it's called the Book of Adam and Eve, but there's one they call it pseudepigrapha, the Cave of Treasures, right? In the Cave of Treasures, there's some information in there that, and I read that shucks a couple years ago. But as I read through here, this also talks about a cave. As soon as I read across it, and Yahweh, or the false god at this point, who was talking to Adam and Eve, once they got out of the garden, because once they began to take life and eat life and consume life from animals, taking it from other beings, they could no longer. It wasn't like, from what I'm understanding here, what happened, it was a gradual it was a gradual this progression, to where the more they sinned against the laws of life, they were automatically pushed out. Not to somebody like, listen, you broke the laws, you can't be in here in the garden no more. No, because of the way their bodies were. Remember, like attracts like. And if you're full of light, you can be in a room with light. But the more you become dark, you're going to be crowded out, and your body begins to gravitate to that. Same thing like we learning in here. When you I saw that same principle over here. When you become dark, your body, it just tends to gravitate to where you're most like. Your position, if you're darkness, you don't belong over here. So you have to move out. And they couldn't, even if they wanted to walk in, because of the denseness and the heaviness and the darkness of not just their flesh, but also their spirit, they couldn't stand the light. Even though they wanted to be, it was impossible for them to even set foot where the light was, because they violated things. And when the creator set things in motion, he don't come back and keep watching, okay, what you doing? No, the laws are set in motion from the creation, and they just follow their own principles and laws. And when we violate a law, there's a consequence to that, and it's just going to automatically take place. The father's like, oh, you done broke that, okay, let me go, hold on, I'll be right back. They did this, so let me move them over here, because according to the law. No, it's already built in within creation. So no matter how far we go down the road, if you violate one of the laws, you're going to immediately get the repercussions of violating that law, i.e. touch a hot stove, you can get burnt, right? So that's what was happening with the bodies and stuff. So I thought that was really, really interesting. So if you read it, y'all have got to like do it in conjunction, like all of this stuff, especially. And I got it over here on this my other bookshelf over here. The Essenes Gospel of Peace. This brings even deeper light to the bodies, the light bodies and stuff. It's just all these different pieces. You just got to bring them together. This is so amazing to me. All right, so let's do this. Let's open up the field guide to the spirit world, y'all. Otherwise, I'd be in it all day. Okay. Page 120. No, what was it? 134. I forgot to move this marker. Page 134. Oh, yeah, this is a new chapter. All right, chapter 6, page 134, the unseen guest. Yes, they violated the law of nature. Saying, is it okay? Is the T silent? When I see T and S's together, I don't know if it was like T'Challa, is the S silent, like Shalombo? I was saying Tush Shalombo, like last names and stuff. Is the T silent? Is it Sanya? Or am I supposed to actually pronounce the T? I like that, Tabitha. She said, life is like a moving assembly line. When disturbed, everything goes crazy. It does, especially if you've ever worked on an assembly line. I've worked on an assembly line before, right? Yeah. That's a good analogy. Oahspe College University. What's up, bro? This is why I don't like the book labeled holy. Yeah. I agree with you, right? But it's all information. We take it and we run it through. We can pull from it what we can pull from it based on what we currently understand. But I like to keep revisiting stuff, because you grow over the course of time. And when you get here, sometimes it's good to go back and revisit things that you shelved, especially things that you weren't ready to receive or couldn't quite understand. You had a few missing pieces to this before you could understand what this was. Like when you watch a movie, you know how sometimes when they a really good plotted movie, right? They show you bits and pieces of things throughout the movie, little flashbacks and stuff. And then towards the end of the movie, after they got all the different scenes and stuff, the different backgrounds, they bring it all together, and sometimes they show it to you in reverse, and it's like, well, not reverse, but then they kind of start revisiting some of the things at the beginning after you've seen that. It's like, oh snap, so at the beginning that was that. Oh, like that's like what's happening to me right now while I'm bringing in all these references, reading stuff. To Sonya. Okay, to Sonya. Thank you, to Sonya. Okay. All right, y'all. Chapter 6, The Unseen Guest. If you hear voices, remember, this is the field guide to the spirit world, right? You can get it on, you can listen to it on Audible, you can purchase it from Amazon, right? That's why I got mine. And it's also in Kindle, right? If you like to read it. If you hear voices out of the blue, you're crazy, right? Hallucinating, psychotic, schizophrenic, a lunatic, right? Well, maybe. Or maybe we all hear a voice from time to time and there's nothing crazy about it, just a bit mysterious. After all, didn't most of the prophets hear the voice? Don't mystics honor the still small voice? Psychic sensitives who can hear spirits are called clairaudient, and the wiser among them, if bothered by pesky voices, simply ignore them. The voices heard by criminal psychopaths, see table 4.1 on page 84, were unfortunately not ignored. Right? And we know here in this that Adam and Eve probably should have ignored that voice that they heard in the garden that was telling them to do all this stuff. But they didn't. And what we see um in Genesis, where even they're clothed with animal skins and stuff, this talks about that once their bodies got dense enough, right? And so their bodies of light, they became, what is called this? They became uh 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 hold on. They became the enslaved body of light, right? So our light bodies now enslaved by the flesh or this womb now, right? Until we can get back to the, y'all get it. I hope y'all do. Listen. Okay. It's just how you perceive things, it's your perception of everything. Don't mystics honor the still small voice? Psychic sensitives who can hear spirits are called clairaudient, and the wiser among them, if bothered by pesky voices, simply ignore them. The voices heard by criminal psychopaths, see table 4.1 on page 84, were unfortunately not ignored. We read that on page 84, that chart. That was, yeah, Murder and the Voice, table 1.4, where it was talking about all the voices they heard, right? Um, um, Also, the gentleman here, remember I made a mention, I think it was yesterday. He's one that can also be added to this chart, right? Because he said that in his, they called it manifesto, his note before he did the rampage at Walmart, he said that he didn't want this to happen, but he is being led by Satan, right? Or it says the Satan. I'm like, why would you put the in front of Satan? I didn't get it. But clearly another voice had been talking to him, and he wasn't able to ignore it, and thus we have what happened. It's sad, but this happened. I mean, it's happening everywhere. But for those of us who can understand it, at least we can diagnose. And I guess the more we talk about it, the more people can understand what's really happening, and the more people understand spiritually, they can kind of catch some of these things and help these people get delivered before it gets to this point, right? Because they're really crying out, there are signs, and now they're starting to find some of this stuff while investigating into this guy, right? Yeah, the books of remembrance, to science said, the books of remembrance and TSP confirm and go in detail of these same areas. They do. Jamia said, what's TSP? Or did you mean ESP? You say TSP. I just kind of assume, but don't let me assume. What? Yeah. What's TSP? Or did you mean ESP? I'm gonna keep reading. I'll look back up. Okay. If the mystic voice, and we're on page 134, y'all, second paragraph. Hold on. I didn't finish the end of the first one. Okay. The voice is heard by the criminal psychopaths. See table 4.1 on page 84 were unfortunately not ignored. Indeed, their sadistic commands were taken seriously. They somehow wielded power over their hosts. Email. I did. I sent it to you yesterday, Oahspe College University. Was it yesterday? I think I sent it to you day before yesterday. Check it. If not, I'll resend it to you. Yeah. Well, listen, Tabitha, me and my husband was talking about this. She said, in the past, black folks never did mass shootings. Where is this coming from? Now, actually, we have. They just put it in a different light. They call it drive-bys, but they have been. It's the same exact thing. But I get what you're saying. What's been televised? Yeah, check your spam folder. A lot of times, what we see when we seen all these rampages and stuff, it has been people of fairer complexions, right? The pictures that they show us, right? Oh, the sealed portion. Okay, gotcha. But we've been having it for a while, and they show it. They present it in a different way, and it makes everybody look like the just stay away from the ghetto because you don't know if you're gonna make it out alive. That's how they portray it. But it has been happening, and they've been televising it, but nobody looks at it the way they do when you televise it. Nobody really even with this, it it's just the way media is set up, right? And biases and stuff. But it does. Like it's happening all the time in places like Chicago and other places where they got murder rates high. I mean, people and that's what a drive-by is. It's a mass murder, it's a massacre, right? But they just frame it in different ways when it comes from different places. Like it's like, oh yeah, this is what they do. They just let them do their thing over there. But when it happens in their backyard, oh my gosh, at the Walmart, at a school, and it's all horrible. Either way it go, whether it's being done over here and it's not being really televised, and people just think it's a normal thing, which is not, versus this over here, and it's shocking everybody. I mean, but it shouldn't. It's really just the people who are controlling things and presenting these different stories and scenarios to the world. But it has been happening. But I get what you're saying because I was completely shocked. I said he was black. I did it. It shocked me, but it really shouldn't because yeah, Bella, turn it down, fool. Yeah. When there is a beef to settle, black folks do have drive-bys. Not random killing. Now some yeah, I guess it's not really, if you look at it, it's not really random killing. Unless it's one of them type of things where it's the initiation into a gang, right? And then some of those are kind of random, right? So it's just yeah. When they do it, it's mental health. When we do it, it's just they thugs. I like that tick, for that's exactly how they portray this, right? So that's the current world that we live in. I don't think it's gonna be this way always, but right now
Of
it's kind
our
of still
generation.
like that.
So sorry. Oh my God, I am so sorry.
And this, what does
Tony
this have
Stark.
to do with
He made contact.
Tony Stark? You
Okay.
talking to me about a Marvel movie?
He's exposing the Mars thing. Homie,
wait. Tony Stark. Wait, is you talking about Tony Stark from Iron Man?
No, Elon Musk. Our generation, Tony Stark.
Oh, can we talk about this in a minute? Because we is not
I'm gonna say
talking
this now, homie.
about this right now. You see how he keep on going with what he want to talk about? Just interrupt me. Have
Because like
no
certain things have
consideration.
higher priority. Because it's like not to disclose anything you're doing. What you're doing is very special and awesome. What you're doing is God's work right now.
And why are you interrupting God's work?
Because sometimes his angels have to come in and give some information in the middle of a speech. Because
Get out of here, Jeremiah. He do. He keep coming in here on my channel. Tickler said you need your own channel.
oh,
He likes interrupting me. He said, because sometimes the angels need to come down and give a message. Okay. Look, hold on. Okay. All right. So page 134. If the mystic voice, sometimes called conscience, is peaceful and gentle, bringing inspiration, we are on higher ground. Hold on. Let me close this door back. Hey, be quiet. Okay. If the mystic voice, sometimes called conscience, is peaceful and gentle, bringing inspiration, we are on higher ground. However, when the voice is intrusive or prankish or bullying, we are in the orbit, not only of the paranormal, but the abnormal, obsessing earthbound entities who, as we have seen it, may even clothe themselves as spirit guides or higher self. The woman known as Eve, the three faces of Eve, heard a voice that, quote, she could not escape, a woman's voice often using vulgar phrases, end quote. Thigpen and Cleckley, 1957, page 23. But the petite and demure Eve did not mention the voice when she first stepped into the psychiatrist's office back in the early 1950s, having been referred there after neurological examination, x ray, and laboratory studies disclosed no physical cause of her blinding headaches. No, it was not the voice, which she still kept a secret, that drove her to Dr. Thigpen's office, but, quote, the overwhelming pain that seemed to pierce right through the flesh into the bone marrow like a steel hand squeezing your brain, end quote. Lancaster, 1958, page 41. Up here where it says, no, it was not the voice, which she still kept a secret. After secret, there's an asterisk. And the asterisk at the bottom says, many others have been unwilling to discuss the voice, quote, fearing to approach a psychiatrist because he might put her away, end quote. S. Smith, 1970b, page 154. Okay, go back up. Page 135, second paragraph. Yet the voice and the pain and the blackouts as well were inseparable things, just as, quote, the headaches and the voices always came together, end quote, for Danny Starrett, Nathan Smith, 1995, page 152. For Eve, first it was the voice, then the headache, then the blackout. She finally told her doctor about the voice, and having dropped her guard, she began to change. At first, she looked dazed. Then she stiffened, feeling the familiar tremor in her stomach. Then, quote, utter blankness, end quote, followed by a, quote, rippling transformation. She winced as she put her hands to her temples, pressed hard, and twisted them as if to combat sudden pain. A slight shudder passed over her entire body. Then the hands lightly dropped and she relaxed, end quote. Thigpen and Cleckley, 1957, page 58 and 23. It was the first time her doctor would meet Eve Black, her, quote, her other, quote, self, end quote. Quote, who are you? End quote, he asked. Quote, why, I'm Eve Black, end quote, she replied. There had been times when Eve managed to ignore the voice, but at the price of a paralyzing headache, often followed by a black, hold on. There had been times when Eve managed to ignore the voice, but at the price of a paralyzing headache, often followed by blackout. Quote, she thought she could bottle me up, end quote. Chortled, is that chortled? Chortled? Chortled Eve Black. Quote, well, I showed her, end quote. Later, Eve Black would explain the headaches to the doctor. Quote, she got them from trying to keep me from getting out. Oh, snap. She got them from trying to keep me from getting out. She didn't know it, but when she tried to stop me, her head would give her hell. The blackouts, of course, showed she hadn't gotten away with it. They came when I was, quote, out. Lancaster, 1958, page 41. Though Eve Black was brash and shallow, her insight was canny. Dr. Gordon, for one, had come to the same conclusion about headaches. Quote, I have seen patients in whom the noises in the head were clear indications that discarnate entities were trying to establish contact. These noises are essentially efforts of his own personality to blur the messages that discarnates wish to transmit. End quote. Gordon, 1982, pages 104 to 105. Another multiple suffered the same syndrome. Quote, there is too much noise. Headaches are horrendous. End quote. Cohen et al., 1991, page 123. There were times when Eve would literally run away from the headache. She would just take off, attempting to leave the pain behind. And after behind, there's another asterisk, and at the bottom, it says, there is a certain parallel here with OCD, quote, exercisers, end quote, compulsive walkers or runners who count on physical exertion to extract them from the unholy presence that is worming its way into their mind. I've seen that. I've seen that. Okay. Let me read that again. There is a certain parallel here with OCD exercisers, compulsive walkers, or runners who count on physical exertion to distract them from the unholy presence that is worming its way into their mind. And it talked about this a little bit earlier with um the pain chapter where it was talking about cutters, people who cut themselves, right? Or they self mutilation. It's like to bring them back before they completely lose consciousness and this thing takes them over, right? And they said pain is a thing that like brings their native spirit like out of abeyance, like back to the forefront. So now they're not focusing on whatever it is, but this pain is like, ow, now it's focused on this, is bring you back, attend to this, right? So this is interesting. Now we can see also why we struggle with addiction. Yeah, right. Okay. um Back up. Second paragraph. I'll just start it over. I only read the first sentence. There were times when Eve would literally run away from the headache. She would just take off, attempting to leave the pain behind. One day she was found unconscious at the foot of a tree, her forehead cut. Quote, she had run full tilt into the tree in one of her blind, agonized flights from the pain of a headache. End quote. Lancaster, 1958, page 43. Eve, of course, became the first multiple personality to make big news and ultimately a Hollywood film. Most therapists of that day made a point of saying that the disorder MPD was, quote, rare, end quote, so rare that they had no adequate explanation of it. But this was a self-serving this was a self-serving blind. The condition, in fact, has gotten much more common, if only because if only psychiatrists have been forced to acknowledge it. Nonetheless, the ultimate significance of the headache remains ignored by the very profession that presumes to illuminate the human psyche. This chapter takes a closer look at headaches and nightmares. This will be interesting. Hey, babe, wait, you back already?
I never went nowhere.
Oh,
You thought I went somewhere?
yeah.
Nah, I ain't going.
I thought you had left and
No, I'm outside with me. Me and him been outside.
Oh, okay.
What smoke you got?
Let me see. You want me to ride with you? Oh no, you just asked me when I'm be done.
Hey, if you want to, babe, I'm fine with it. I know what time you down.
Um, well, I appreciate that. Shortly. I think I want to get up here to this chart. Headaches signal entity intrusion in bizarre homicides. I want to get up to that. Okay, page 136. I don't even know if I'm gonna go yet, sis. If I go, you can go. Okay. Okay. Quote, the person with migraine is par excellence a perceiver of psychic factors, including discarnate entities. End quote. Arthur Gurdon, The Psychic Dimension of Mental Health. If, as I argue, along with Dr. Gordon, the psychic headache represents the organism's frantic attempt to throw off an uninvited guest, geist, or ghost. This would explain one, why no amount of tests reveals any organic cause of pain, or two, why drugs cannot help, and three, why the alter once, quote, out, end quote, feels no pain at all. It would also explain why MPs or multiples are so headache prone. Let's briefly searchlight this. And it's a bullet point list. One, two, three, four, five, six. It's 6 bullet points. And the first one is, quote, I wish all therapists would understand the physical pain involved with headaches. Physical pain makes functioning impossible, end quote. Cohen et al., 1991, page 122, quoting Renee, an MP. The second one is Trudy Chase, a super multiple with what? They should just lay this legion. Trudy Chase, a super multiple with 92 known personalities called the troops. Yeah, legions, the troops, right? A legion is a company of the troops there, called the troops, said to her doctor, quote, nothing stops them, headaches. I take Tylenol more for security than relief, end quote. Wow. Chase, 1987, page 25. Another famous multiple with 16 alters, Sybil, played by Sally Field in the 1976 TV movie, had almost constant pain in her head. The next one, a female physician, was in therapy for almost 4 years before her alters were discovered. After a confrontation with her doctor, she complained of a terrible headache. Very soon after that, her 4 hidden personalities emerged. The next one, Helen Smith, a multiple, complained of pain at the base of the skull in her head whenever an altar takes over. And the last one on the list, a French multiple, Felida, suffered acute pains in various parts of her body. When she had pains in her forehead, she fell into a profound, quote, sleep, end quote, from which she awoke as an entirely different person, smiling and gay and feeling no pain. Fodor, 1966, page 279. This is scary. In the case of Jenny, a super multiple, abused in childhood by Satanists with not less than 400 persons in her orbit. Yo, that trumps these 92, the troop. Cheesy. Pete's like, who is sitting there counting all these altars? Like, how long did it take you to talk to each and every last one of them where you know of a certain, bro, we got 400. I'm on 399. Hold on. Who? Johnny? Johnny who? Johnny X? Okay. We got 400. She got 400. 400 multiples living inside the one body. In the case of Jenny, a super multiple abused in childhood by Satanists with not less than 400 personas in her orbit. The therapist noted that her headaches, quote, often signaled the presence of an altar trying to surface. The headaches were caused by having to hold back another personality, end quote. Spencer, 1989, page 201, 239, and 249. Periods of memory loss called lost time in the patios went hand in hand with Jenny's blackouts. Someone else had taken over. Jenny simply wasn't there. Then there is Alice, a Connecticut housewife who took to using barbiturates, then heroin, quote, to drown out the voice in her head, end quote. She had no idea she was a multiple. There were 5 alters, as it turns out. Alice, quote, was also losing time and had persistent headaches caused by the pressure of the various personalities struggling to gain control, end quote. Mayor, 1989, page 97. And that's we talk about it a lot recently. um you can see this really good. The dude played part real good in the movie Split and Glass. You can see when the alters are trying to take over, and how you can see like there's this internal war where the different ones are fighting for the light, to talk. That takeover is called switching. When one of Cam West's 24 altars took over, quote, my head began to throb and I felt myself falling into the dark zone, end quote. West, 1999, page 131. Something about that dark zone reminds me of the utter darkness in which some migraine sufferers feel compelled to sequester themselves. An Austrian housewife suffering from severe depression perceived a shadow, quote, in her left iliac area, end quote. She told the healer, Samuel Sagan, quote, it just feels dead, cold. It just likes to be left alone. It's like the dark, like a cave, end quote. Sagan also treated a plumber with an entity attached. It, quote, just wants to be left alone in the dark. It doesn't want to let the light in, end quote. Sagan, 1997, page 17 and 8. The mysterious aversion to light may be a sign of hyper hyperesthesia, a baffling condition, sometimes painful, entailing super acuity of the normal senses and oversensitivity to light, sound, touch, and smell. For the multiple E, the simple movement of an eyelid could be an agonizing experience. But no single group has a monopoly on this curious malady. We find it among psychotic criminals like Richard Speck, who had to lie in the dark when his headaches were bad, or among phobics, drug users, and autists, as well as among those suffering nervous breakdown, multiple personality disorder, and spirit possession. In all cases, through though, the experience belies an ASC. An ASC, remember, is altered state of consciousness, a paranormal phenomenon, and elsewhere experience. For the psychedelic tripper, quote, the faintest vibrations were vastly amplified, end quote. Warnke Warnke et al., 1972, page 20. The phobic personality may also be acutely sensitive to visual stimuli, touch, and taste, while the OBEer, out of body experiencer, may feel, quote, like a nerve is exposed, end quote. The vividness of things, quote, increased 100-fold, end quote. Battersby, 1979, page 47. It is as if the person's spirit, detached from his body and hovering at the threshold of etheric space, the rarefied non physical world, is then jarred by the return to dense matter. In such cases, the sensory pathways are suddenly much too porous. Occultists call that rarefied non physical world the astral realm. In one weird case of astral projection, reported by England's HFP Battersby, so acute was the perception of the experience that he saw, quote, the molecules of objects, even the clusters of veins and nerves of his own body, vibrating like a swarm of luminous living atoms, end quote. Another OBEer felt, quote, a snapping pain in her head, end quote, so intense that it forced her back into her body. Battersby, 1979, page 50 to 51. Anyone catapulted into the outer zone may endure such parasensory effects. Migraines seem to be a common complaint amongst autists who straddle the precarious frontier of the unseen world. The psychic headache, not surprisingly, is also an occupational hazard among mediums, sensitives, as Nandor Fodor, 1966, page 294, the great analyst and PSI investigator, saw it. Quote, once we admit the possibility of the soul leaving the body, we have to admit the possibility of another spirit entering it. We are seeing a mind use a brain, end quote. In fact, PSI research has discovered that the base of the brain is a major point of entry for psychic forces. A girl named Heather, part of a teen vampire gang, quote, would struggle for would struggle for domination of her mind, believing she had an alternate personality hidden in her system. Heather's headaches were sometimes so severe, her skin would become tight and her face would take on a faint white color. End quote. Jones, 1999, page 176. It seems that the more bizarre or villainous the person's behavior, the more wicked the headache. The overshadowing of Danny Starrett, serial rapist, has already been touched on. Despite his crimes, quote, Danny didn't really fit the classical profile of a serial anything. He wasn't a loner. In fact, he appeared to be quite the all American, end quote. Frankly, Danny came off more like a multiple MPD than a hard boiled sex offender. What with his voices, what with his voices, headaches, blackouts, and unexplainable absences, and use of the third person, him, when talking of himself. First came the voice whispering, then the blasting headache. It was, quote, like his whole head is going to explode, end quote. Blackouts and lost time followed. Danny explained, quote, it just starts like my whole brain is engulfed in. I began to get tense because I know what's coming next. I get that panicky feeling. I'm trying to stop it. I feel like I'm going to throw up, and the dull pain in my head is getting more intense. And then, for lack of a better prescription, I feel reality changing. End quote. Nafay and Smith, 1995, page 333, 178, and 145. Although each and every case is unique, there is a notable sameness in the symptoms of the criminally obsessed. We saw them hearing the voice. We saw them losing control. Chapter 4. Now we see them stricken by the savage headache. Yet all these are part of the same cycle, a single syndrome with all the earmarks of malign invasion. The pattern is so familiar, so common, space allows only a brief summary. And here's this chart that we're about to get to. And first of all, let me just say, I commend Ms. Martinez on her on her on her APA format consistently all the way through her book with the references and everything. Like she got APA down. You know how when you write papers in school, how you have to write in an APA format with your bibliography, and you got to put your in text citations and stuff. So when y'all hear me saying Nandor Fodor 1972 page 28, that's an in text citation, right? So and I found it first. I thought it was a pain in the butt. Like, why do we even have to do this? But for somebody who's coming behind somebody that's written something and uses this in their research, I realized why it comes in handy, especially as a researcher, right? I never got this in the high school, even going to college in my early years and doing these papers. I really just didn't get what the purpose was. Let us just write our paper and okay, bibliography at the end. But why we got to do the in-text citations? The in-text citations have been a lifesaver in trying to track down specific phrases and stuff from certain resources that are found in the bibliography. It gives you the actual pinpoint location of where to find this at. This is genius. I didn't think that in my early years of school. I'm just like, this is too much. But now I can see why it's absolutely needed. I didn't know I was going to be researching and doing all the stuff that I'm doing now. And the in-text citations are amazing to me. And I love the way all the way through all her books, she got it down. She ain't the only one, but I'm just saying, I didn't realize how much I would need that until I started reading through her stuff with all of this. Okay. We're on page 140, table 6.1. And I think we're going to pause after this. Where we at? Yeah, we're gonna pause after this chart. It's still talking about the headaches and everything, but after this chart, we're just gonna pause and pick it back up tomorrow. Okay. So table 6.1, headaches signal entity intrusion and bizarre homicides. Okay, so here's a chart. Here's what it looks like. It's 2 pages worth of chart. And I'm gonna read them both. Okay, and up here, the columns, this is killer's name, nature of headache, and the signs of overshadowing. Okay. The first one, Kimbianchi, the nature of his headaches, they were recurrent headaches. Signs of overshadowing, MPD, multiple personality disorder, had a quote, twin spirit, end quote, logorrhea and night terrors. O'Brien, 1985, page 182. Hold on, where's that? It's a restricted attachment. Can you hold on? Meaning you can't open it? You can't open it? Can you see the document? Oahspe College University? If not, I'll try and send it again. The way I had to, when people email me, I have to forward it to you from another email because I tried to send it a couple different times and like re-download it, but it wasn't working because the file is so big. So when people email me, I let them know, hey, I'm about to forward it to you in the next email. That's the way I found it to work right now, right? So I have to forward it to you from a previous email where you can open it. So yeah, try it. If it's not opening, I'll try and do it again. Yes, thank you, Jamia. She said I suggest everybody download it as soon as you get it. Yes, I mentioned that. Download it because it's not my link, right? Somebody shared it with me, right? Actually, somebody shared it with me. Somebody shared it with me, but the link can be it can go away just like everything else. So it might be you can I forward it to Yahoo. I can open it now. I guess Gmail has a label scanner. Yeah, so get it downloaded, y'all. And you can also, I don't know if you got, I don't know, figure out a way to keep it because when it go away, if it go away, there's nothing I can do about that. Okay, right now, this is that it looks like it's the only way to get it. Like I said, and it's only Sunday, so when I hear back from them, and hopefully they're just doing updates on stuff, right? Hopefully they're just doing updates and they making it everything updated so where you can maybe order from directly online, right? But if not, then I don't know. It could be because of the whole uh court case going on behind it and everything and fighting over rights and all of this stuff. And I'm like, this information should be free for everybody, right? At least those who are looking for it, right? Those who are looking for I'm not just sharing it with people, but because we're here, we studying together, right? We studying together. I ain't selling nothing. I ain't trying to make any kind of money from sharing none of that stuff. We're simply studying, putting things on the table, trying to bring this trying to understand what's been happening in this world while we waking up, right? And learning who we truly are, what we are. We're trying to break through from the religions, the strong delusions, everything. Doesn't matter if it's Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, whatever, right? We're all here. We all come from different backgrounds, and we're just bringing what we have. All the resources we come across, we're bringing it, we're putting on the table, we're examining everything. We're learning how to decipher truth from error, testing things. Those things that are good, we hold on to, and we add to our spiritual growth for our continual progression and acceleration, right? And those things that don't serve us, at the moment, if they don't serve us, if we think we need a little bit more information, we might be missing something, we'll shelf it. But things that we know at this point, we know this is complete garbage, brush it off the table into the trash can. I got matches for you to set it on fire. Yes.
Tell George to stop holding your door.
Stop holding my door. Turn the TV down. All right. You welcome, Abba Girl. She said I couldn't sleep after reading that Adam and Eve chapter. Thank you, Sis Pam. You welcome. Yeah, put it on the flash drive. Put it on. Save it. Right. Save it. And I don't think y'all will, but I don't know. I don't expect anybody to do anything illegal with this stuff or try and post it on a web page or anything like that, right? Because it's copywritten. But while we're sharing, because we're like, that's why I say I email, we can look at it personally. We can come here and talk about it without violating copyright. And I may have violated copyright, but that's why I say I can't at this point. I can't read like page for page. Really, just go to this page here, this, and my summary, kind of like doing my proper APA and all that stuff, right? Giving, y'all get it. Right. So I don't know. We just I'm hoping now the elders of Kenya, from what I understand, what's been said, that the elders of Kenya, they want to share it, but they want to share it appropriately. And apparently how it's been put together here, they were saying some things that were included in here, it shouldn't, not that you shouldn't have it, but it just shouldn't be paired with some stuff. It's different. I don't know how you want to say it. Maybe like different levels of information. Maybe I'm explaining this wrong. There are different levels of information, and this level of information should be kept here, and this level should be kept here. But it seems like it was taken from different places and paired together. You know, if I'm explaining that the right way, but they want to release it, but because it's kind of already been um somebody else has translated it, right? Somebody else who understood the language that was written in the scrolls, they took it when they got a hold of it. They translated it and they did it this way, and just the Essenes, what is it, the Essenes Church of Jesus Christ or whatever, they had the resources where they could bind it, hardback, print it, and distribute it, right? So all of this is a part of this whole lawsuit and everything that's kind of happened, just kind of like in a nutshell, right? So, but I read y'all the 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 beginning page, and you will see it when you open it up. In the first two pages, kind of just gives just a very a quick snippet of what's happening on why they're leaking it. Via PDF or whatever. So, and when you read through that, those are not, when you go through it, it's like side notes and footnotes and stuff where somebody has highlight and made notes. Those are not my personal highlights or notes and stuff. That's how I received it. So, but yeah, that's just a little bit more information. Um, yeah, so I would say, yeah, download it. Don't do anything nefarious with it. Use it for your own personal growth, in your studies and stuff. But yeah, don't try and post it on the website, y'all. Just warn y'all, don't try and do that. Okay. I know some people don't always follow directions, but I'm letting y'all know you probably shouldn't, because if they catch it, um, um, you might be in danger of getting your stuff wiped away. All right. Okay. It's possible. I'm just saying. So don't even be using no kind of hashtags with it. If somebody goes searching for it, where to pull you up. If you share like a little snippet or something like that, or kind of zone in or whatever, just use good common sense. The information is mind blowing. You need another laptop. I think legal battle. I think the legal battle is serious. Yeah. Okay. They should be in separate books. some of the stuff should be in separate books. It should. Some of the stuff I read, I'm like, yeah, that definitely should be in a separate book. Especially, well, people are are at different levels of understanding. Some people can decipher that and see. Other people, it's like it's like children. They don't know that they shouldn't eat this yet, or eat this at all. Like, this is not edible. Babies take and put everything in their mouth. They're like testing stuff. So I get it. Okay, so let's go back to this table real quick so we can get done. Page 140 in a chapter, The Unseen Guest, table 6.1, is titled Headaches. And I started reading, I read number one. Headaches, signal entity intrusion, and bizarre homicides. And we read the first one, Ken Bianchi, recurrent headaches. That was the nature of his headaches, and the signs of overshadowing was MPD. He had a twin spirit, logorrhea, and night terrors. O'Brien, 1985, page 182. The next one is Jerry Brudos. The nature of his headaches, blinded with pain for most of his life by migraines, followed by blackouts, excruciating pain. Rule 1988B, 20, 41, and page 45. The signs of overshadowing, compulsive, and hyperpraxic. The third person, Eric Chapman, the nature of his headache, violent headaches, felt a tight band around his head. The signs of overshadowing, he believed he was controlled by people's thoughts, overshadowed by dead uncle. The next person is Richard Chase, wrapped his throbbing head in a cloth and stood on his head to get the blood down to it. Signs of overshadowing, he thought someone was controlling his mind. Markman and Bosco, 1989, page 168. Next person is Ed Jean. Constant complaint, constant complaint of headaches. Of quote, a force like an evil spirit built up in me. Evil quote. Schechter, 1989, page 190. Gary Gilmore, savage headaches. Lifelong bout with migraines. Overshadowing, hauntings, compulsions, voices, in a thrall to the darkness beyond. Gilmore, 1994, page 250, 212, and page 348. Next person is Gary Heenick. Headaches and dizzy spells. The signs of overshadowing, hallucinations, quote, divine messages, end quote. Douglas and O'Shaker, 1998, page 390. Next page, Joe Callinger, nature of headaches, severe pain in both temples, signs of overshadowing, quote, I knew I was going out, that is, ceased to be the normal me whenever I heard the voice. I'd get a headache, then it was it that controlled me, end quote. He'd end up 70 miles away without knowing how he got there. Now that is scary. Schreiber, 1984, page 101 and 145. The next person, Jeff McDonald. The nature of headaches, excuse me, frequent severe headaches, signs of overshadowing, many signs of malign invasion, including, quote, changed personality, end quote, just before the attack. McGinnis, 1983, page 609. Richard Masek, chronic headaches, signs of overshadowing, hyperpraxia, supernatural blisters, quote, zombie, end quote. Morrison, 2004, page 32, 43, 28, and 35. And after 35, there's an asterisk. And the asterisk down at the bottom says, yet forensic psychiatrist Helen Morrison, 2004, page 32, insists that his chronic headaches were psychosomatic, perhaps due to overwhelming, disorganized feelings about his crimes or worrying about his forthcoming trials. End quote. Do we need specialties for this two-bit psychobabble? All right, go back up. The next one, Jason Nelson. His nature of headaches, intense migraines that lasted a week. The signs of overshadowing, neighbors, quote, attribute his crimes to demonic forces, end quote. Markman and Bosco, 1989, page 8, and pages 14 through 16. Marino, Her nature of headaches, quote, suffered frequent blackouts with her migraine headaches, end quote. At 14, went temporarily blind with an acute migraine, the sign of overshadowing, ACSs or altered states of consciousness, plus amnesiac of killing her children. Glatt 2002, page 58, 37, and 222. Richard Ramirez, Nature of Headaches, quote, hot knives through the head migraines, end quote, and blackouts. Signs of overshadowing, corpulea, hyperpraxia, suicidal, dual. Carlo, 1996, page 289. Arthur Shawcross, sharp headaches. Signs of overshadowing, automatisms, fuse, rapid cycling, chapter 9, OBEs, hyperesthesia, voices, and corpulea. Last person on the chart is Solly, Solly. The nature of headaches, pounding headaches. Signs of overshadowing, sleepwalking, compulsions, lost time, thought and, quote, intruder, end quote, had killed his wife. And essentially he did, but his body got in trouble for it, right? All right, beautiful people. And this is where we're going to pause at today, at the end of this chart. This, it doesn't stop here. It really just keeps going. And we're going to just pick it back up tomorrow because we are already at an hour and 55 minutes. So let me put my page number. Yes, babe. Hmm. Hold on, Pooh. What? Oh, what is she eating? All right, y'all. So that is it for today. It is Sunday. Girl, that's for baby. She ain't no baby. It is Sunday, November the 27th, 2022, day 273 of year 4, reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1293. Today we read in the book of Oahspe. We started in the synopsis of the 16 cycles on page 54, and we read up to page 55. Then we hopped over here to the Field Guide to the Spirit World. We started on page 134 all the way to page 141. All right, y'all. I remember to share the charts, the timeline, what a humanity chart, the timeline from Oahspe. And I'll also share the reference points that we talked about, where I was comparing the Megillah, the Holy Megillah, also called the Secret Nazarite Scroll, by the elders in Kenya and all those who've learned about it from their end, the Secret Nazarite Scroll. Oh, and also, hold on, I'm gonna share this too. And for all of those who have been looking at the Nazarite vow or have taken a Nazarite vow, some information that you, where did I put it? I wrote it there, but I didn't stick the tab in it. Hold on. It was the chapter with Abiel. Hold on. Yeah, chapter 11. You will find it doesn't say Nazarite vow. It calls it the vow of the Christ child is the vow of initiation into the Nazarene, or what I come to understand and know as the Nazarite vow. And when it talks about the Christ child or those who have taken it, it's talking about those who are walking in the light and they learn how to manipulate the elements and all this stuff. They understand herbs and herbalist, master healing, and all of this stuff, the Christed one, right? And that's pretty easy to understand. It's not talking about a Jesus Christ, it's talking about people who have grown spiritually and are operating on higher levels and principles. And it's a whole chapter um dedicated to this. And it's chapter 11, part 2 of the Mahaze Gedola, the messianic revelation of the lamb and a dove. And the lamb represents a man, a dove represents a woman, not spirit entities and stuff like that. But it gives you that breakdown in here and it goes into this. And as I was reading, I'm like, yo, this is the Nazarite vow, right? It gives you a little bit more detail. So for those who are interested in it, and we are Nazarenes because we lift up the distress unto holy resurrection and spiritual ascension, which it that falls in line with what Oahspe teaches us. It's a continual progression and ascension, growing spiritually. This is what the Nazarites do. They teach people, help them grow spiritually, bring them their spiritual awareness up, help them in their growth, their spiritual progression, right? But not just with things here, but also things when we're truly born into the spirit world or the S world, as Oahspe calls it. So if you're looking for that, that's chapter 11 of the Nazarene book of Genesis, right? Um, and that's the true consecrated priesthood, right? So look through that when you get it. If you just read through it, but if you want to jump right to it and see that, that's the chapter, chapter 11. It begins on page 69. 69. Okay. All right, I gotta put a tab in there so I don't forget that again. All right, so with that being said, beautiful people, Father, we thank you for constant elevation. Yes. And sharing, coming together with like-minded people, brethren and sistering, sharing our resources and stuff, what we get to help us grow and elevate, not just here, but also spiritually. So that way when we leave up out of here, right? When we return our flesh back to the earth, to Mother Earth, to the dirt, we get to bypass hotter. We ain't got to deal with them shenanigans on a hotter level, which is in the first heaven. Hold on, I'm gonna write this, and that's right. Put this in here. Okay. All right. I got to put all my little tabs and write on them for quick reference, like when I share stuff with y'all. All right, y'all. So that's it. Don, I know. We should say hallelujah. 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 All right, y'all. Create a game. Blessings, blessings. All right, y'all. You're welcome, Kendrick. Very enlightening lesson today. I still haven't seen the movie Split yet, but I intend to. Go watch it. It ain't like scary, but it does. It I think is a good movie that Hollywood did that. And watch the whole trilogy if you can, when you can. I ain't saying like binge watch them all, but definitely watch Split and Glass. Unbreakable is kind of like the first part. So when you get to Glass and you got Bruce Willis's character, his character comes from the first one, and his story is told in Unbreakable, which you see Glass, Mr. Glass, some of his stuff. They're all intertwined. It's a trilogy. But anyway, all right, y'all. That's it. Let's go and get out of here. Too. Do you want to end this? I love y'all, and I see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early.
You didn't hear me?
What?
I said I want to end it.
I just said get over here, girl. I see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hallelujah. All right, y'all. Tootie, you gonna have to stand up here. Hold on. Bring chill.
I have to end both of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't need to end all of them. You just need to end these. Hold on. Oh, hold on. Wait, she already in the Facebook. Hold on. Listen. Hold on. Sister Pam, Oahspe College University says, Sister Pam, if you purchase the book, then you can quote from it. Right? I kind of figured that, but I just didn't know to the extent. So I'm going to look into that just a little bit more, right? Right? As long as I'm giving proper credit and all this stuff and not trying to take it on like it was my work, you know? So we're going to see. We'll look into that a little bit more, right? All right. So, all right, y'all. I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here in the morning. Peace.
Oh, I remember. Let's see both.
Bye, y'all.